today's video we're gonna go back in time. Now, back in time, I mean really back in time. This dish is actually around 1850, or like it came more to light by certain chefs around 1880, so you know, way back in time. And it's a farmer's meal. It is cheap, flavorful, doesn't need a lot of ingredients, and it's stuff that was very accessible. Like I said, old dish, think about old France. So what does it have? It has your classic garlic, onion, of course, cheap. Tomatoes for some flavor, don't even need a lot of tomatoes. And you have mushrooms. That's it. You can do it with chicken. I do it with chicken. The dish is called chicken Celestine. But you can do it with beef or pork or whatever. Like, the base is so familiar. And there are regional differences. For example, you got one with cognac. If you don't like that, it's fine. White wine, more accessible. Which one I will be making. And to make it more rich and filling for those farmers from the old days, it also has some cream in it, so it's like really thick filling. I like this dish a lot, but I eat it with bread. For me, it's one of those dishes that you don't need potato with. You can add potato, like fried or roasted potatoes if you want. It's kind of like a stew idea, but for me, give me a bowl of this for lunch, give me some bread, and I'm basically solid. Like, if you think of Middle Ages, about inns and things like that, I'm pretty sure this would be one of those dishes that would be in there. But while I'm still rambling, let's start cooking. Now, since this is an easy dish to make, I really recommend, or what I did to begin with, is just cut everything. So you cut all the onions, you cut the garlic, you cut your mushrooms, because once you start cooking, this can be done so quick, it's kind of crazy. I do it a little bit different based on my own ideas, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm pretty sure back in the day they put everything in a pot and went for it. Now I put it a little bit together so that my chicken doesn't get too crazy pulled apart, but that's a separate story. So just start with cutting your onions, garlic, mushrooms, and tomatoes, and you can put the garlic, onion, and mushrooms all together in one bowl, because we're gonna fry them together later on. Now if you enjoyed this video or like want to see more of these interesting tips or tricks or like small things that can make your life easier, that you don't need to cook every day. I'm not talking about meal prep that you have already cut paprika in your fridge. No. I'm more talking about recipes that you can make it a little bit bigger so that you can store and have it like in the fridge so that you have food for 2 days, or maybe you can have it in a bigger amount so that you can feed your family or have lunch the next day, that you just warm it up and it's done. Please then hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, because it means a lot to me. I'm really trying to reach your goal, and I really appreciate it if you do that when you enjoy the video. So now let's get started. I take a saucepan or a low frying pan, or a frying pan with a rim on it, so that I can make everything inside there. And I start off with just frying chicken. That's it. Give it a nice brown color. You don't need to cook it all the way, because we're gonna fry it later, or we're gonna continue cooking in the sauce so that everything nicely comes together. But to start with, just fry the chicken, give it a nice color, then take it out and add your onion, garlic and mushrooms. Now the onions will release some liquid, or like their juices, so you might need to add a little bit of oil, but all the leftover chickens that will be stuck in your pot, that will come loose with it, so it will create right away a little bit of depth as well, like a little bit of chicken stock without adding extra liquid. Now once you have your onions and mushrooms and mix in and start frying a bit, feel free to add already here in this part your salt and pepper. You can add thyme and rosemary if you want some lavender leaves, bay leaves. You can add that as well, it's really nice, and you fry that. And over time it will slink a bit, or like it will become smaller. And once it becomes nice and small, you can add your tomatoes. And why I say that later and not right away is purely because the tomato will have liquids as well. So first you want to reduce a little bit of your mushroom juice or liquids, mushroom water, so that it will become fried mushrooms instead of boiled mushrooms. Now if you don't care for that part, just put everything in, because the tomatoes will be frying as well, and it will become one mixture. And once you have a little bit of fried tomato look, you can add your white wine or cognac. I went with white wine, it's for me like nice, but you don't actually need to add it. It doesn't, in my mind, the recipe says it, but I cannot really taste the difference or like taste it as a whole. But I do know in old France wine is cheap there, okay? Wine is cheap, so you can just add it in. It gives a little bit of flavor. And then you reduce that until almost nothing is gone, and then you add your cream. And then you bring it back to a boil. And then once that is like getting thicker, you add your chicken in for the last cook, so that all the flavors get nice, come together. And basically that's it. Like I said, it's not an easy dish, but it's super delicious. So if you want to add potatoes, at that point you will have your fried potatoes ready, or I would suggest doing first the potato, because This can be done in half an hour, maybe an hour if you include the time of reducing. But you can do other things in between. Like you can walk away for 5-10 minutes and do something else. But it's like a one pot meal and it's really rich and delicious. Now after a certain part, let's say I reduce the sauce for half, I look if the consistency is thick enough, because like I said, I wanted to have a little bit of a thicker sauce because I'm using bread with it. It's not like I'm eating with rice and then make like porridge. No, I don't have fried potatoes, no, and so I don't want to have it too liquidy. I like it a little bit thick and rich. I just cook up what I want. Now I was frying in this particular case like 800 grams of chicken, which basically meant that I have dinners for like 2-3 days besides this one, right? Which is very beneficial. Like if I feel a lazy Sunday, don't want to cook, or I don't have time, then I have this already in my fridge. Now I do need to emphasize, like, don't keep it too long in your fridge, of course. But that being said, you can freeze it just as much so that you can heat it up after and you can just enjoy it. It's like one of them. For me, when I can do stuff like this, it's very nice because then I don't need to worry. I always have something in my fridge and can eat it. But that's it for now. Have a nice day.